The war is raging in West Asia. What started as an aerial campaign on Iran by United States and Israel has now escalated into a full-blown crisis in the region involving various countries: Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Jordan and Iraq. No country has been left untouched by the Iranian counter-attack. As the war continues to expand, the question on its deadline remains unanswered. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the U.S. President Donald Trump, and the U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth are all giving different signals when it comes to ending assault on Iran. The American president said that it would last for 5 weeks.
We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always. And we have, right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
Donald Trump has also refused to rule out having boots on ground in Iran. Remember, this comes after the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that boots on ground will not be necessary.
The United States would not deliberately target a school. Our objectives are missiles, both the ability to manufacture them and the ability to launch them, and the one-way attract drones. That would be our focus, and that's what we would be focused on. We would have no interest and, frankly, no incentive to target civilian infrastructure.
In Israel, meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Iran war is not endless. But unlike Trump, he refrained from giving any timeline to end the assault against Iran.
I said it could be quick and decisive. It may take some time, but it's not going to take years. It's not an endless war.
Earlier, the IDF said that war will continue for as long as it takes. Various statements by top American and Israeli officials show that both countries have not really entered this war with a set deadline. Iran, remember, has also clarified that it will not seek peace under the pressure of war and will fight for as long as it takes. I'm now joined from London by Jack Roche. He's a researcher at the London School of Economics, joining me at the moment on the broadcast. Jack, welcome to WION. Good evening. I want to start by asking you, Jack, since you're somebody who's also been associated with, a group that protests against Iran having nuclear weapons. I want to ask you how you assess this entire situation. The International Atomic Energy Agency has today confirmed that there have been hits on the Natanz nuclear facility, but there is always that threat that looms large of this turning into a radiological warfare.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I think that the threat that this conflict turns into radiological warfare is fairly low. Iran does not possess nuclear weapons currently and appears unlikely to produce them under the current circumstances. And I do not see, the United States or Israel engaging in any kind of radiological strike against Iran. That said, there is, of course, risk in the United States and Israel striking Iran's nuclear sites, that there could be some sort of radiological impact. And that's exactly what the International Atomic Energy Agency is concerned about. One other thing I think it's important to point out is that the United States or Israel engaging in strikes against what are ostensibly peaceful nuclear facilities like Natanz or Bushehr shows that perhaps American and Israeli policymakers are no longer differentiating between Iran's peaceful nuclear program and a potential militarized nuclear program. So in effect, policymakers are seeing these as one and the same, and that may be the motivation behind striking something like Natanz.
Jack, I also want to shift our focus to how Donald Trump has reached out to the Kurds, and this is interesting and in very many ways significant as well, because there are many experts who believe that the role of Turkey might come in handy as far as this entire conflict is concerned. And we've just got a statement from the IRGC that the Iranian media is reporting. They say that they've targeted dissident groups planning to attack Iran from the Iraqi Kurdistan region. That becomes significant considering the fact that the Kurds community has been a common factor both in Iran as well as Turkey.
Well, it seems as though both Iranian Kurdistan and Iraqi Kurdistan have become a focal point of this ongoing conflict. Iranian strikes have taken place against US targets and other targets in Iraqi Kurdistan. And it seems as though reports indicate American strikes and Israeli strikes have taken place in Iranian Kurdistan. And the Iranian motivations in trying to prevent some sort of cross-border conflict with Iraqi Kurdistan are fairly clear. There's been a low-grade Kurdish insurgency taking place in Iran for a number of years. And those insurgents in Iran have communication and, in some cases, sought refuge in Iraqi Kurdistan, which is much more autonomous these days. And so preventing some kind of transnational conflict that could destabilize the regime further or sort of act in the eyes of the Iranian government as an instrument for US or Israeli policy is fairly clear. For the United States, it's sort of the flip side. So if they can open the border between Iraq and Iran and allow for Kurdish fighters to move back and forth to receive supplies from Iraqi Kurdistan, then that may help in their efforts to destabilize the Iranian government, undermine its response to US and Israeli strikes, and potentially lay the groundwork for some kind of political transformation in Iran once the strikes end and we move into the post-war period.
Okay, Jack, I request you to stay with me. I'm going to tell our viewers this breaking development that is coming, and I'll come back to you right away. There is a breaking development that is coming in at the moment, viewers. The head of the Russian State Nuclear Corporation, Rosatom, has said that the Bushehr nuclear power plant in Iran is under threat as a result of the escalating conflict. This is the latest that has come in as far as Russia alarming this entire fresh strike is concerned. Lekashev was cited as saying that there is certainly a threat to the plant. He said explosions can be heard just a few kilometers away, and he also said that the plant itself was not being targeted. Rosatom earlier said that it had evacuated nearly 100 people from Iran, including the employees, children, and the non-essential staff from there. But other personnel have remained at the plant, which was built by Russia in the Iranian port city of Bushehr. That's the latest that's come in. So clearly a lot of concerns there as far as nuclear facilities are concerned within Iran. So far as this plant is concerned, there is no direct threat at the moment, but of course concerns remain as this conflict still deepens. Let me go back to Jack, who continues to be with us. Jack, nuclear facilities being under radar. The attack continues. The West Asia conflict is only spreading across the entire region and deepening. As far as the United States president is concerned, and you've been studying the Iran-United States relationship for a while now, as far as Donald Trump's policy towards Iran is concerned, at the moment, he doesn't really seem to care about what domestic opposition is saying. But the midterms are nearing, the November elections are coming up. Do you think any sort of impact, any sort of change in mind, a softer approach would perhaps be seen closer to November?
Of course, this is something that I'm looking at constantly. And I would say that there is a chance this could have a negative impact on Donald Trump and the Republican Party heading into the midterms this year. If US casualties continue to mount, if Democratic and some Republican opposition to the strikes persists, this could become an increasingly unpopular issue for the Trump administration. As of this moment, it seems as though Democratic opposition is mostly based on procedural grounds. If you look at the statements of Democratic leaders like Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer, most of their opposition is not necessarily to this operation in principle, but to the fact that Congress wasn't consulted and no congressional approval was sought by the administration. If Democrats perhaps move into a position of advocating for greater restraint or opposing these strikes outright as a matter of principle, as casualties continue or as the conflict expands or escalates. That could be a salient issue heading into the midterms. For that reason, we see Donald Trump talking about wanting to put a timeline on this, wanting to say, it'll be wrapped up in a month, in 5 weeks. And that is appealing for those who might advocate for restraint, because it indicates that, the crisis isn't spiraling too far out of his control. However, that creates risk of undermining his credibility with the electorate if the conflict does continue beyond that point.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this really unfolds. Jack Roche, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thank you.